Hey guys, Sebastian here from Potzer Analytics. Today we're going to be talking about the bridge and the Lucena position. The bridge is a fundamental concept in rook and pawn endgames, and the Lucena position utilizes the bridge and is a building block position that a lot of endgame strategies are built off of. So let's jump right in. So first let's talk about the bridge. Here in this position, white is up a pawn and he wants to promote that pawn to a queen, and black wants to stop him from doing that. Black's strategy really is to just perpetually check the white king and stop white from promoting that pawn. So here black plays rook to a1 check. Now if white simply moves his king out of check in this position to b6 in order to protect his pawn, let's see how that plays out for white. So white plays king b6. Now here black can just keep checking the white king. King moves out of check, check again from black. Move, check, and he can't get out of it. So instead, when black first gives this check, white can utilize the concept of a bridge. White is going to use his rook to block the check from the black rook. So let's see how that plays out. White plays rook to a4. Now this blocks the check from the black rook, but more importantly, it is protecting the file from the black rook and allowing his pawn to promote. So this concept of the bridge blocks a check from black, and it also protects the promoting square. So if black takes the rook on a4, white captures back, and now black can't stop the pawn from promoting. So going back to this position here, it is a really important concept that white utilized the bridge. So now let's look at a different position. Here in this position, it's the same idea where white is up a pawn and he wants to promote that pawn, and black wants to perpetually check the white king and stop him from doing that. But there's a key difference between this position and the previous one where the rook is on a different rank. So in the previous position, the rook was on e4. Now the rook is on e3, and that's going to make a big difference when white tries to build his bridge when rook checks him. So in this case, black plays rook a1 check, and if white were to move his rook to a3 to try to build that bridge, the king is no longer protecting that rook. The king can't get to it, so that means the rook is just a free rook, and the black rook can capture it for free. So here, black says check, and white can't build his bridge, so he needs to just move his king. However, even though he couldn't build the bridge immediately, not all hope is lost. He can still find a way to make a bridge later on in the game. So let's see how white continues to work for that concept of the bridge. So black plays check, king moves, check, no surprise. White is trying to get his pawn to promote, so he's trying to protect that square. Black says check, and now the white king moves his king in front of the pawn. This is not ideal for white because the white king is blocking the pawn from promoting, but it was the only way that white could get away from all the annoying checks from the black rook. So let's see, black plays rook to b2, and now white says, okay, this is the opportunity to try again to build the bridge. So let's see how he does that. White plays rook to e7, and the idea here is white is going to build his bridge on b7. He's going to build the bridge on the b file, protecting the b8 square, which is crucial for his king to get out of the way of the pawn. So this, again, the idea is this rook bridge protects the b8 square. So let's see, black plays rook b1, white builds his bridge on b7, and of course black cannot capture because when white captures back, there'll be no way for black to stop it. So black runs out to h1. Now the white king is free to move away from the promotion square. King b8. Black says check. The king runs away. Check again. King moves. Now black once again is trying to stop the white pawn from promoting. If white moves here, the black rook will just capture it. But there's still another bridge in this position. White can use his rook to go to b8 to again build a bridge protecting the square on a8. So he's using a bridge in this case along the 8th rank. White plays rook to b8. Now black says check, white king moves, and there's nothing that black can do. White promotes his pawn to a queen. So now that you understand the concept of the bridge, let's move on to the Lucena position. So this is the Lucena position, which is characterized by one side, in this case black, has king, rook, and a pawn, and the other side has just their king and the rook. And the main characteristic of the Lucena position is that the side with the pawn has their king directly in front of their pawn on the promoting square. And the enemy king, in this case white, is locked out of that promotion square. So it's not controlling the promotion square. And that's a really defining characteristic of the Lucena position that gives this position a win for the side that has the pawn. So it's really important that black has control of that promoting square. So this position is a win for black, and if he plays it correctly, there's nothing that white can do to stop that. White can only hope that black makes some kind of mistake and then ends up with a draw. So we're just going to play the main line here to see how black gets that win. So the first thing that black needs to do is he needs to push the white king even further away from the action. And the way he's going to do that is by giving a check. So black's going to play rook to c7, check. That's step one. Now white moves his king away. And step two is to build a bridge. And black is going to build his bridge on the 5th rank. This is a really important rank. Black anticipates that he's going to walk his king around and end up on e4. That means he needs his bridge, his rook, to be on the 5th rank, one rank in front of where the king is going to end up. So black did not choose the 4th rank or the 6th rank. Black wants to build the bridge on the 5th rank. That's a really important rank. So black plays rook c5. Now white plays king b3. So now black is going to open up that promotion square for the pawn. Black plays king f2. White is going to try his perpetual check strategy. Rook check, king moves to e3, check, king moves f3 again, keeping his eye on his pawn. He can't drop that pawn. Rook check, king e4. Now this is the point here. Rook check. Black has cleverly placed his rook on the rank that gives him the bridge. So now rook to e5, blocking the check. Rook takes, king takes. White can't stop that pawn from promoting. So the king moves, pawn promotes to a queen. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, that was step one, check. Move that king away. Step two, build the bridge on the 5th rank. So the king is going to end up 2 squares away from the pawn. That means the bridge needs to be on the rank directly in front of that. After setting up the bridge, it's just a matter of walking the king forward and then throwing that rook in front of the king to bridge the gap. So that's the main line of the Lucena position, but let's say, what if black did not do this really critical first step of pushing the king away? What if instead black just immediately jumped to step 2 of building the bridge? What would the effect of that be? So if instead black plays rook to d5, trying to build his bridge, white would play king c3. Now black is going to roll out and try to make his bridge. White check, move, check, check. Now black makes his bridge, and let's see when white takes the rook, king takes. Now because the king is 1 file closer to the pawn, white actually has time to catch that pawn and stop it from promoting. So because black did not push the king away to begin with, the king is close enough that the bridge doesn't work. It's too close. So all the way back to the beginning here, it was really important that black's first move was check, to push the king further away. And what if instead, if white did not go away from the pawn, what if white chose to move his king to d3 to go closer to the pawn? How would that play out? So if instead white plays king d3, this is actually just a faster win for black because now white has created his own bridge against his own rook. He's now stopped a rook check and protected this square, d1, from a rook check. So now black is free to move his king to d1, and white actually can't take this pawn. So if white takes this pawn with his rook, black can just pick up this rook. So black plays rook d7 check, king moves. Now black gets the skewer on the king and the rook. Rook to e7 check, and he's going to pick up that rook on e2. So all the way back here at the beginning, rook to c7 check, super important first move. So like I said at the beginning, the Lucena position is a fundamental building block position that a lot of chess endgame strategies are based off of. So let's go to this position here, where here we have white with the passed pawn, a king and a rook, and black has just their king and a rook. So if white is familiar with the Lucena position, he knows that he has a win. So white's strategy is to achieve a Lucena position. He needs to figure out how he can achieve a Lucena position. And remember, a really important characteristic of the Lucena position is that white gets his king onto this promotion square. White needs to control that promoting square, and he needs to stop the black king from getting to that promoting square. If black can get his king to that promotion square, it's a draw for black. White would not be able to kick him out. So it's really important in this position that white's very first move is to lock out the black king from getting onto the promoting square. So by moving his rook to f2, he's going to lock out that black king from crossing over and getting into the promoting square. So super critical first move from white is rook f2. Once again, it's creating this barrier, stopping black from getting onto the promoting square. And here it's just a matter of time before white can walk both his king and his pawn all the way down and get to a Lucena position. So let's just play it out a bit and see how white actually does that. So black plays king e6. White slides his king over because he's trying to get his pawn up, but he needs to keep his eye on that pawn. He can't get his king too far away. Black check. Now white is going to move to this square, which will allow him on the next move to push his pawn up. King g5, rook comes back, attacking that pawn. White moves his pawn up. King moves, and now white just repeats this little triangle. King over, king up, pawn up. King over, check, diagonal, attacking the pawn, pawn moves up. And you'll notice that white does something here, a little pro tip. White keeps his king on the short side of the pawn. So here there's only one file in between the pawn and the end of the board. On this side, there's 6 files. So white does a little pro tip of keeping his king on the short side, which protects him from checks that can come from the long side. So again, black moves, and white's just going to keep repeating his triangle to get his pawn forward. Check, king up, attack that pawn, push the pawn. Over. Now white has the Lucena position. So white has achieved his goal of getting the Lucena position. From here, it should just be, okay, I know the strategy for winning a Lucena position, just run through the steps, just follow the algorithm. So black plays king e6. Remember the algorithm: step 1, give a check. Step 2, build that bridge because the king is going to end up 2 squares away. That means we need our bridge 3 squares away from that pawn. So white plays a check. King moves over, getting on that bridge rank. King moves. King slides out, opening up that promoting square. He's going to make his move onto this square. Check. White makes his bridge. Rook takes, king takes. Not enough time to promote to a queen. So that is the bridge and the Lucena position. Super useful concept for rook and pawn endgames. I hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson, and like and subscribe to get free access to all of our lessons on Lichess, and I will see you guys in our next lesson. Bye.